Welcome back to the Lemming Report presented by American Family Insurance. You can't expect coaches to fly 30 hours round trip and spend multiple days away from campus in search of one player, but odds are they would find one in Polynesia. Luckily, many families are stateside now and will be sending their sons to the Polynesian All-American Bowl coming to Southern California on Saturday, January 19th. And joining us now, former NFL All-Pro Dan Saleamua, Director of Player Personnel for the game and one of the great players of all time of American Samoan descent. And Dan, tell us, what makes these kids so tough and play with so much heart, most recently like Heisman candidate Manti Te'o?
You know, a lot of it comes from where from the home. The big thing about Samoan and Polynesian families automatically is the first thing in the values is God. God and family, then respect. One of the biggest things a lot of these young kids grow up in the Samoan families is that you will learn to respect your elders, and you will finish your chores. You know, they got a thing where a lot of these kids have to, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You got to do your chores. If you got to take the trash, you got to take the trash. In the Samoan family or the Polynesian family, there is no time for excuses. So when you see a lot of these kids running around and the coach is asking them to do something, they're doing what they're told to do. And it's not they were brought up in a certain way, like 300, all these kids are trying to teach them how to be tough. It's called being respectful. And majority of Polynesian families, they teach you respect right in the beginning.
Hey, Dan, what kind of exposure do you expect the ball players expect to get? I know you have a lot of big name guys like Suat Cravens in the game already, but the ball players that haven't gotten a lot of attention, what can this game do for them?
Well, a lot of it, because we use the internet to try to expose a lot of these kids more than after most of them get done with the recruiter trips. A lot of these kids that we bring here, we feel that they have the potential to move up to the next level. But what makes our game a little bit different compared to some of these other games that these kids have been getting invited to is that we try to use the experience from all of our different NFL head coaches and assistant coaches. We talk about the hard work that it takes for some of these coaches that we bring in here. Tuiasosopo, Vice Sikahema. These are the two coaches and a lot of the different assistant coaches that we talk about. The goal of the game was to try to give as much knowledge to these kids and experience that these players and coaches went through to help these guys be more accustomed to the next level. Because that's the biggest issue that most of these kids run into is like they just weren't ready or prepared for it because they didn't hear about it. We try to expose these kids to so much more information in this game itself, and the exposure that we use, especially through the internet and throwing this game all over the country, has more access to more coaches to watch some of these kids compete. Because the goal of this whole game is one thing and one thing only, is to make sure these kids understand, can they compete to the next level? That's what this game's all about. You got to understand, the Polynesian game is a ministry, and it's all based on the stuff that we learned as kids. But the one thing that we try to expose to these kids is to make sure that they're in an opportunity to expose them to the kind of competition that it takes to get to the next level. That's why we want to use as much experience as possible with a lot of our former NFL players. That's why we use these former players to be the head coaches. Because we make the kids, literally make the kids, ask them a question. Because a lot of times they don't know because they're kind of scared. So we have like a little college day, the day before the game, where we have like a little banquet with some of the college kids now and some of our former NFL coaches just to ask questions. Because a lot of times if you don't ask a question, you ain't going to know. So that's why we try to make sure these kids talk. They got to talk, because by the time they get an offer to some kind of school, they got to make sure they're prepared. And that's all we're trying to do with these kids right now.
Dan, I've been involved in a lot of All-America games, but I've been really rather surprised at how close the Polynesian community is. You mentioned Tuiasosopo, Vai Sikahema. Seems like anybody you go after, they're willing to come and participate and to help make this game better as coaches or like yourself, a former NFL player, personnel director. Is that the reason why this has been so successful and you getting all the top Polynesian players to come to an All-America game?
Well, I think they see the importance of this game, especially for the younger kids. We played back in the 90s, and some of us played in the 80s. So the goal was to we didn't have this opportunity, and that's the big thing that a lot of the former players that I talk to, just give them a chance, just give them a quick chance. That's why they're out here participating in this game.
All right, Dan Saleamua, we look forward to watching this one unfold and seeing some future college and even perhaps NFL stars thank you for joining us here, and enjoy the game yourself, and happy holidays.
Thank you for having me. Happy holidays.